This video contains some of the most compelling footage yet captured of the ongoing atmospheric aerosol spraying assault. Countless people ask me how we can prove that jet aircraft are spraying in our skies. Here's the answer. Because we have up-close film footage of these jets spraying, turning on and off. Period. That's the end of any debate on the matter. In the effort to awaken others to the critical climate engineering issue, if they refuse to accept what they can see with their own eyes, there's nothing more you can do for them. Move on to others that are ready to face reality. The greatest lie ever perpetrated on populations around the planet is the fallacy that the lingering, expanding jet trails we see in our skies is just condensation. It is not. Film footage like this proves beyond any reasonable doubt that what we are seeing in our skies are sprayed aerosol dispersions that are part of the ongoing global climate engineering solar radiation management assault. These programs are decimating Earth's life support systems. They're nothing short of omnicide for planet Earth. They must be stopped. Videos like this are the most exceptional of tools in the battle to reach a critical mass of awareness regarding the climate engineering issue. We must all use every tool at our disposal. Every day counts. This is Dane Wigington for Geoengineeringwatch.org.
Hey, welcome to Mega Wellness Summit Live. We are so excited. We have a fantastic show for you today. I am super thrilled that we get to talk to Dane Wigington from Geoengineeringwatch.org. I have been waiting to talk to Dane for a very, very long time. And it was a very cool story of how this all transformed and how I was able to get Dane on Mega Wellness Summit. In a nutshell, I saw him at CalGem and really had been wanting to get him on the Mega Wellness Summit, but I had just never stepped out to make that call or make that email happen. So it was so the right timing and so meant to be that he is here now. I went up to him at CalGem and I said, "You're the missing link on Mega Wellness Summit. Will you be a part of it?" And he said, yes. So he is with us. Without further ado, hello, Dane. How are you?
Good, Nikki. Good. And again, my deepest regard to you for your willingness to face this issue that is of such extreme importance that too few people understand or recognize yet.
I agree. And we know what? We had a pre-show while we were waiting. And I went into a little bit of what we are going to be discussing, but I'm really happy because we get to really dig deep here today to find out some honest truths and to find out about your research. So, for those who don't know who you are, can you just tell them a bit about yourself and what you do?
Yes, the way I got into this battle, Nikki, I have a background in renewable energy. I'm a former Bechtel Power employee, and Bechtel is certainly not a reputable or honest company. They're like Halliburton. I left at a young age because of what I saw. But I built my off-grid home in the wilderness of Northern California. I'm completely off-grid, wind power and wind, solar, and hydro power. And my home is the cover of the world's largest renewable energy magazine. When I came to this wilderness area expecting to find clean skies and began to lose immense amounts of solar PV uptake, the solar power uptake, from whatever these aircraft were emitting, clearly something radical was going on in the skies above. And when I began to research and discovered the mountain of data on geoengineering, began to water test, found astronomical amounts of toxic metals that matched the patents exactly in my rainwater. And I've been at it ever since. I've been at this battle for about 12 solid years. I put my entire life on hold. I've expended every bit of resource I had and will continue to do so until we bring this issue to light and to a halt.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So
not a battle I wanted in any sense.
I know it was like a battle you were sort of destined to deal with. And what a blessing you are to this our lifetime. We are so grateful for you. But let me ask you this. So when you started to notice that you weren't getting as much power from the sun, what happened? What triggered you to question what was happening?
Condensation cannot block 70 or 80% of your solar power uptake. That's a virtual impossibility. So clearly, whatever these aircraft were emitting was not condensation. And again, from initial baseline tests for aluminum, for example, which is a primary element on many geoengineering patents, a primary element named by the world's most recognized geoengineers, who have, by the way, stated on the record their goal of putting 20 million tons of aluminum nanoparticulates into the atmosphere annually. 20 million tons, that's an incomprehensible number. So from an initial rain test of 7 parts per billion, which we used as a baseline, and that test was already high for aluminum given our filtered forested location, we saw subsequent tests in the next 18 months tested at the state certified lab go as high as 3,450 parts per billion. That's nearly a 50,000% increase. And we're talking about toxic rain at that point, and including barium, aluminum, and other elements. So at that point, you can't deny what's happening. We know it's not coming from China, as many people like to leap at that conclusion, because such heavy metals, with the exception of mercury, cannot migrate those distances. Mercury can because it converts to a gaseous state, but other heavy metals, and aluminum is a heavy metal, by the way, for those who don't realize that, but anyway, these had to be of a local origin, and they match the patents exactly. And quite simply, this is solar radiation management. For those that don't know the science terms, by the way, climate engineering, stratospheric aerosol geoengineering, stratospheric aerosol injection, solar radiation management. Those are the science terms which gain credibility on this issue. So we try to encourage people to use at least the term, for example, climate engineering, when they're introducing the subject to others, because that way those who search the term will find credible data, as opposed to the chemtrails term, which by design leads to conspiracy theory and hoax, and we want to gain traction.
And that was actually going to be my next question. So what is the difference between chemtrails and geoengineering? Well, there really isn't, correct?
No difference. The difference only is this, and this is semantics we're talking about now, but the difference is there is no scientific basis for the chemtrails term. Some have claimed that there was a military document that used that term, but that document had nothing to do with the atmospheric aerosol spraying program, so it was not relevant to the equation. And again, by design, the power structure has set up an apparatus to immediately discredit the chemtrails term. Even though it's a more accurate term, it's still, we're playing chess, if you will, and we need to play effectively. And when we use the science terms, we're not so easily marginalized. But the two issues are certainly one and the same, no question.
Okay. And so who is doing this? Who is spraying this?
The they. And on that note, by the way, just to provide future ammunition to your listeners, we are conducting a film shoot tomorrow in a specific location with professional videographers, one that's done work for National Geographic and others, to answer every single question with very short YouTubes and a menu item at the top left of geoengineeringwatch.org, so we can, even though all these questions are answered in presentations, people can get a quick 2-minute specific answer for some of these questions. So we'll have that available to your listeners soon. To answer the they question, they are those who print the money. All roads lead back to the central bankers. Those who control the central banks around the world control militaries, they control countries, and they control everything else related to that. So how is it that we have, for example, in California, a state that people think is very environmentally minded, has all these regulatory agencies to look out for public health and welfare? That couldn't be further from the truth. These agencies are designed to hide the threat, not to disclose it. And how do they do that? Because again, back to the central banks, we have, in California, for example, is about $50 billion short with their budget every year, $50 billion. And nobody asked, where did last year's deficit go, or the year before, or the one before that? Because it's funded from behind the scenes from the central banks, who can print whatever they need. And so they hold the purse strings to everything down the line, state agencies, county agencies, and everyone in those agencies knows where their paychecks and pensions are coming from, and they simply toe the line. And so everybody's towing the line while the ship goes to the bottom, and that's the scenario we're in. And we have to break that scenario. We have to hold these people accountable to tell the truth, regardless of the risk to their employment, because their employment's not going to matter on a planet that doesn't support life, is it?
Absolutely. But what is their primary motivation to do this and to block the sun and to put aluminum, barium, and strontium into the air?
This is where the equation becomes more complex. Many try to find a single answer to that question, and there is no single answer. If we trace this back to the inception of these programs, which on a significant scale happened in the mid-40s, ultimately it's always about power and control. To manipulate the weather is the ultimate weapon. But it's imperative for people to understand also that the human race, industrialized activity, has done immense damage to the planet, and there's simply no rationally denying that. And I always point out that this is not about Al Gore or carbon credits, both of which are shams, but it's about reality. And the reality is, when you cut down or kill 55% of Earth's original tree populations, that's 3.4 trillion trees. The other 45% is sick and dying. When you poison the oceans, pave the planet, detonate 2,000 nuclear bombs, nuclear power, I mean, we've decimated the planet. But the single greatest assault on the web of life, mathematically, is climate engineering. When they started it in the mid-40s, they already recognized, and the data made clear, the planet was warming rapidly. Geoengineering, in the eyes of the military-industrial complex, worked initially. The consequences took time to manifest, so for them it was a success. They started geoengineering over the poles first, most significantly the southern hemisphere. That's where the southern hemisphere ozone hole developed first because of climate engineering. So many people may remember that by the mid-70s, early to mid-70s, the planet had not continued warming at the rate that the climate scientists thought, and so they speculated that perhaps there was elements in the equation that they didn't know about, and they were right. That was climate engineering. And it caused a cool down of the planet initially, but when the negative consequences kick in, how could they not when you're covering the planet with toxic metallic particulates? The warming continues, the ozone hole depletion continues, the disruption of the hydrological cycle continues, the poisoning of soils and waters continues, which kills boreal forests. So all the negative consequences kick in. All the military-industrial complex knows how to do is to do more. And again, back to the original why, it's to use weather as a weapon, for one, which they've done around the globe, and to try to hide the severity of the damage already done by doing yet more damage in the process. Nikki, you remember the Gulf of Mexico oil spill, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Of course. And do you remember the chemical Corexit that was used there? Did you hear of that chemical ever?
No.
Some of your listeners may have. They used a chemical called Corexit. It's banned throughout the globe. I'm making a comparison with geoengineering and the why. So that chemical didn't help the oil spill at all. It just helped to hide it. And the environmental impact reports from the Gulf spill proved that chemical made the situation over 50 times more toxic, but they used it anyway because it helped to hide the problem. And the same mentality is true with climate engineering. It's simply about power and control, hiding the severity of what's happening to try to keep business as usual as long as possible. And again, weather as a weapon. You don't have 156 countries with U.S. boots on the ground for no reason. Countries like sub-Saharan Africa have been droughted out, brought to their knees, forced to allow U.S. occupation. Every single Middle Eastern country, every single one, subjected to 1,000-year droughts before they were destabilized. That's not a coincidence. We have leaders of those countries like Ahmadinejad on the floor of the UN stating emphatically that their military has positively identified that their country is being droughted out by NATO weather modification programs. So there are many different aspects, and one of the main issues they're trying to hide, because real damage is done to the climate now, there's mass methane expulsion happening around the globe, most specifically in the Arctic. So again, even though they're making the situation worse, they're trying to hide the severity of it by blocking some of the daytime sun to lower some of the daytime highs, but that's making the overall warming worse, not better.
Mm-hmm. So they have been doing this since the 40s, correct? Been spraying
Correct.
like this, but the
Correct.
last since what, 1998 is when they really started to beef up the poisoning. Or
You're right on the money.
Okay.
You're right exactly on target there. 98, when we had the warmest year recorded, and it was clear that they were losing ground because they're actually making the situation worse overall, not better. And so what did they do? They doubled down. And 98 was when things were really unleashed after that formerly warmest year ever. And they've ramped it up a number of times since. 2007, 2009, 2010 is when we saw significant ramp ups. It just keeps going up, up, up. And if we don't expose and bring these programs to a halt, mathematically speaking, we don't have much time.
Okay, let's talk mathematically. I am not very good at math, but let's talk about it. What are we looking at?
On the current trajectory, if nothing becomes even more non-linear than it already is, from the best frontline scientists that are speaking most directly to the actual figures involved in the actual math, we're looking at a northern hemisphere that will likely not support life past 2029, 2030. And that doesn't mean that everything goes along normally until then. We're talking about not supporting life, period, past that point. Southern hemisphere would be about 10 years behind that. Now, the equation, unfortunately, is becoming more nonlinear rapidly. And let me put some figures to this so that those listening don't roll their eyes and walk away, because the society as a whole has been conditioned to believe that no such changes could occur in anything less than millennia or centuries, and that's mathematically completely false. If we look backward, for the last 40 years, Earth has lost about 60% of all wildlife populations, 60%. Human populations have doubled in that time frame. We're losing about 300 species of plant, animal, and insect every single day to extinction. That's 15,000 times background rates. We're in the 6th great mass extinction now. So if you take that graph and project it forward, even if it doesn't become even more nonlinear, which it is, we're still looking at the time frames we're talking about. And the methane that's filling the atmosphere right now, I mean, the planet's in, it's not just in a runaway warming event, it's in what would be more correctly classified as a climate shift. And again, I don't want anybody to believe what I'm saying, and I'm not a fan of NASA, NOAA, all these governmental agencies, which are just tools of the power structure. But we don't need them to come to these conclusions. We have enough frontline data and frontline film footage to see firsthand what's happening without any other input from any other sources. So we're seeing based on the data we have right now, we appear to be past 3C of warming on the planet, not 2C, which is what you hear the Paris Accord and so forth talking about. We appear to be past 3C, and humans have not existed on the planet past a baseline of 3.5C. So we're in uncharted territory, and again, I don't pretend that if we stop climate engineering, our troubles are over, not at all. But that's the single greatest leap we could take in the right direction. It's the single greatest assault on the planet. The planet must be allowed to respond to the damage done, and right now it can't.
Mm-hmm. So if we get them to stop spraying, is there recovery? Is there hope? What does it look like after they're done spraying?
There's always hope. If the planet is allowed to respond, there's always hope. And an example I've given often, because people can picture this and relate to it, in the deepest, most towering concrete jungle of asphalt and steel and concrete, if there's the slightest crack in that pavement, a blade of grass comes through, and the planet will try to respond. So on equilibrium periods, if we look at paleo events like the PETM event, it's the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum of 55 million years ago, mass extinction. The equilibrium periods after that event were 10 to 20 million years. So you can't just right this kind of damage overnight. And the momentum with this event is much greater than what happened then. So we are, we're in for quite a ride. There's no getting around that. But again, if we can expose and stop these programs and allow the planet to respond, that's absolutely the greatest leap we could take in the right direction. And on exposing and stopping the programs, and this is critical for people to understand, there's no simple way forward. It takes all of us to help reach a critical mass. And this is a point I try to drive home because so many people want to hear from someone like me. We have a petition, you can sign the petition and then go on about your life and everything will be fine. That's not reality. It's not going to happen. We all need to participate in the effort to raise awareness, and we do that with credible information. Passing out a credible flyer is a very effective tool. If we reach critical mass and those families of the people involved in these programs know what their family member is involved with, that's our best way forward, to stop these programs from the inside out so that those in power no longer have the personnel to carry out the programs. And we do that by reaching critical mass so that these families and people understand they're killing themselves along with the rest of us.
There's a couple of things I want to mention here. For one, I've talked to a lot of people, and we know this, that when we cut ourselves, our body knows how to heal. And the planet is also the same way. The planet knows how to heal. So thank you so much for reminding us that there is hope. We just have to really buckle down, get our heads out of the sand, and do something, use our voice, use our eyes and ears and our legs and our hands to take our power back. And thank you so much for really giving us that, because sometimes we feel powerless, but you just said, you can do this. As a collective, we can do it.
We absolutely can.
I love it. Together we can do this. You can't be by yourself. And we are behind you as a community. I am behind you. There are ways that you can support Dane and his research. He's done so much for all of us. Now, let me just put this in perspective for you, that if this is true, as far as the timeline goes, 2028, 2020, or 2030, if this continues on the same path, my daughter won't see to graduate from high school. So she's almost 6 years old. So she won't see that. And so this is how critical that this is. And so not to go, and I said this earlier in pre-show, not to go in a mole and hide in your house and shut off all the windows. That is not the way to react to this. Correct, Dane?
Absolutely correct. In fact, those that really want to find solace in this dark hour, that can be found only by engaging 100% in the fight for the greater good. And in regard to the planet's response mechanisms, and as you stated, if life's given half a chance, it will survive. And if we could stop the aerosol spraying, for example, let's take the boreal forests, which are the second greatest source of oxygen on the planet, the northern latitude forest. Right now, geoengineering is killing them by poisoning the root system with bioavailable metals, coating the foliage with the same bioavailable metals, disrupting the hydrological cycle, the rain cycle, the unimaginably intense UV radiation, which is happening around the globe now. That's directly attributable to geoengineering from every direction, from the forest to the plankton, aquatic and terrestrial insect life, us, everything. The entire web of life is being contaminated, decimated from multiple directions from climate engineering. If we could stop climate engineering, the increased carbon in the atmosphere from industrial activity with the increased rainfall would actually start to cause the forest to rebound. They would actually thrive from that mix, and that's how the planet responds. That's we would have ecosystems that would again try to compensate for the damage being done from certain pollutants like CO2, but now they can't because of climate engineering. So that's just one example of the planetary response systems where the planet tries to regain its equilibrium, which it can't do now with climate engineering. So, and also on the time frame, Nikki, for our children to consider this, although we're talking about the dates we mentioned, that doesn't mean again that things would go along normally till then in any sense. Once the power structure can't hide the severity of what's happening from the population, And once the links in the chain start dropping out, which I would argue we are perilously close to right now, the power structure is going to be more dangerous than ever. And it's imperative that we beat them to the intersection, that we expose this issue before they're prepared, before they put their chess pieces in place, before they're ready for it to be exposed. And we need everyone to help us do that. Everyone has immense power to help that happen.
That's right. That's right. Now, I just want to talk to you about, I'm hearing a lot of talks about this word chem flu. And it's kind of talking about that the chemtrails are causing flu-like symptoms in people. Do you know anything about that? And is this true?
It is. It is. And again, with situations like that, when we know we're exposed to these materials, there's no speculation, no hypothesis, no conjecture. We have the lab tests to prove that these materials are coming down in our air column. It can't not make us sick. It can't not cause inflammation, respiratory issues. These particles are platforms for fungal proliferation as well. And we're seeing, for example, Nikki, with chronic sinusitis, which is epidemic now across the globe, based on recent research from sources like the Mayo Clinic, this is fungally related in almost all cases, 95% of the cases. So we have a mainstream medical system which is administering antibiotics for a fungal infection. So exactly the wrong treatment. And on the fungal issues, about 70 to 80% of that extinction rate that I just mentioned is fungally related. And what happens in the human body when you kill off the beneficial organisms? Fungus explodes. Same thing's happening on the entire web of life right now. So this, in addition, mycoplasma, which has roots in biological engineering, is showing up everywhere. Are they doing biological testing on us as well? And tests seem to bear that out. Institutions like the Carnicom Institute have found what they consider to be engineered pathogens in this mix. And why would we think otherwise?
Oh, wow. Well, I definitely can understand with this, we have over medicated ourselves. We're overusing antibiotics. Now we have, chemicals in the air that is causing us to have more fungus. It all makes sense to me now. It really does make sense why we have such a candida epidemic in this world, in America alone. Fungus, yeast, overgrowth. It's crazy. And I'm sure that there are people, callers right now listening, going, wow, I just made a huge connection. So thank you for that. Go ahead.
On the biological experimentation for your listeners, because I'm not stating that that's a foundational aspect of this at all, but I'm simply stating that we should consider that is a very likely aspect when we have 24 plus documented historical incidents of the U.S. military experimenting with pathogens on the U.S. population. And for those that have not seen those incidences, I would encourage them to search that online, because the historical data is there. And at this point, when they can do whatever they want in the skies above, that's exactly what they're doing. And at minimum, I mean, what we're talking about here really is planetary, not just ecocide or genocide. We're talking about omnicide, the systematic destruction of all life. And I'm not saying that's the purpose of these programs, but I'm saying that's the result. When we have programs of this level of destruction happening at this level of coverage, everything eventually breaks down. And we're close to that point. We're seeing organisms break down everywhere, virtual crashes. For example, in Northern California, in Shasta, Siskiyou counties, in the last 10 years, we've seen aquatic and terrestrial insect life crash by 90%, 90% decline. And that's as measured by Forest Service biologists. So if the insects can't make it, how long will we make it? And again, this is why this issue is a priority. And I know Fukushima and vaccinations and from every direction, GMO foods, we face an onslaught. But this is about every single breath we take. And that would be rationally, I believe, our greatest priority.
I agree. Are we in a war against them? Is this war? and we just don't know it.
Absolutely. I don't know how we could call it anything else. When those in power know how lethal this mix of elements is, and they know, we have Navy studies from the late 90s on the nanoparticulates and how lethal they are to the human organism and all life because they're bioavailable, and they're continuing to disperse these materials, I would certainly call that war. What matters is, and what's important, again, back to critical mass, the vast majority of those engaged in these programs, and we're talking about an immense amount of people, just quote, doing their job, the order followers, if you will. The vast majority are being told they're engaged in a planetary saving effort.
Sure.
And this is where we need to break those walls down. And those people have a responsibility to investigate what they're involved with too, from the weathermen who are lying about what's happening in the skies, and they absolutely know what's happening. We had one communication from a Fox News meteorologist who said they were being taken into meetings and told you don't touch this issue no matter what. Then we have Weather Channel and Weather Central, Weather Underground, all these corporate power structure owned entities doing their best to explain away climate engineering as if it's natural, to explain away why it's snowing at 50 degrees with chemical ice nucleation, and we have forecasts of mostly sunny days. How can a meteorologist know days in advance that a mostly sunny day, which typically means no natural clouds, only the wispy, cobwebby remnants of spraying, how can they know that 3 days in advance unless they're reading scripts? And they are reading scripts that are fed to them by Raytheon, in the case of National Weather Service and NOAA. Raytheon, private defense contractor who's very involved in climate engineering, does all the modeling for the federal agencies. So we have the foxes running the hen houses. And for those that ask, and this is a logical question, why aren't some of these scientists speaking out? Because first, all government scientists like National Weather Service and NOAA have no First Amendment protection whatsoever. And now, on top of that, there's a federal gag order on all National Weather Service and all NOAA employees. So those in power are trying desperately to keep this issue from becoming exposed, but it's up to us to beat them to that place.
So just like vaccination, they can't be touched. You can kill as many people as you want, but you can't come back and harm us. We have nothing to, we'll inject you all that we need to and all that we can. And if you get injured, well, it wasn't because of the vaccine. Yeah.
It's up to us to reach a level of awareness where those who are currently in denial understand that they're fighting for their own lives, their children's lives, so that everybody literally takes to the streets, refuses to participate. I'm talking about peacefully. I'm not advocating any sort of violence. I never have. But we have to simply refuse to participate in the system. And right now, we have still an unfortunately high percentage of the population that just wants to go along. As long as they can buy their new car with nothing down, no interest, no payments, get their house mortgage at 2% so they can use their house for an ATM to live it up. We have a population that doesn't want to face reality. And we need to try to get across to them that reality is imploding by the day right now. We're seeing global shipping rates, for example, in the I'm not diverging from the subject. This is actually directly connected to what's about to start unfolding around us. They're virtually in the basement, global dry shipping. And so the economy is a complete illusion at this point. It's being kept afloat by the central banks, as I mentioned earlier. It's a snake eating its own tail. They're trying to keep the appearance of normalcy as long as they can. And we need the population to abandon their normalcy bias and understand we're about to hit the wall. And the sooner we wake up cumulatively and work together toward exposing this issue and turning directions, the better chance we'll have.
Wow. Well, I think this has definitely been eye-opening for myself, and I'm sure the callers are like blown away by all of this. If there's anything that we can do, please let us know if we should just be, I know you have fantastic flyers. We'll be in touch if anybody wants to have access to those flyers, to put them on cars, start an organization, start a group, start a meeting, start whatever, contact Dane Dane, how can we contact you personally so that they can get help and get what they need to start making everything come out faster?
There's a contact at geoengineeringwatch.org that can reach me directly. And on the flyers, for example, you can download them from the site for free and print them locally. And that's generally the best bet. And on flyers, it's much less expensive to go to a print shop if you get a significant quantity printed than it is a copy store, because the copy stores can be quite expensive and print stores can be very inexpensive. So flyers are really, we've found to be one of the best keys to the door, because just orally trying to convey this information can put people's alarms up. And if you just pass on a credible flyer that has enough information on it, but not too much, a lot of visuals, our flyers have worked very effectively for this. Again, you can download them for free. Any of the information on geoengineeringwatch.org, the presentations, any of the YouTubes, you can download and record those, any of them. Nothing's copyrighted. People can hold viewings in their community to have others over to watch a presentation. You know, there's a number of them there. And also we have links on the upper left, the activist suggestions link, which includes other links to pre-packaged letters that are already written out for introduction with other informational links in them that your listeners can find groups, organizations, and individuals in their area that would care if they had a clue, if they were given credible information, so they can start spot fires of awareness everywhere. And that's what we all need to do right now. And once we reach critical mass, Nikki, many wheels will begin to turn on their own. That's how we have an attorneys group, because we reached enough level of awareness where these attorneys realize they're going down with the ship with the rest of us. They're helping us pro bono. Now we have some film people helping us as well, because they also realize their futures, their children's futures is a part of this equation. So as we reach critical mass, all the wheels will turn on their own as people realize they're fighting for their lives, literally. And so this is why critical mass is really the bottom line. Yeah,
I agree. Everybody who is listening to this right now, I really do encourage you to take action. Don't go inside, hide like a mole. You absolutely need to take action. I'm doing my part by having Dane on, by getting people together, by putting people just like yourselves in awareness of what's happening. If you didn't even know what was going on, now you know, now you can take action. Now you can go to whoever you know and keep going higher and higher and higher. And together as a collective, not just as an individual, but as a collective, we can prevail. We will take over, because we are a lot stronger in numbers than they are. So we can take our power back, and we will. So thank you so much. I just want to take maybe there's a couple of people I'm sure have been trying to hang on here to ask you a couple questions. Dane, is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, so what we're going to do is if you have a question for Dane, please press *6 on your phone to unmute yourself. *6 on your phone. If you have a question for Dane, please press *6.
In the meantime, to add something, Nikki,
yes,
as well, as in the effort to reach critical mass, what makes this issue different than any other is people are now recognizing around them that the climate system is imploding. And so even those that are in denial are being forced to wake up. So as we plant seeds, those seeds will be forced to sprout. And people need to keep that in mind. And whatever resistance they encounter will be broken down as events unfold around them.
I agree. Oh, hello?
Hi.
Hi, how are you? What's your name?
Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie. What's your question for Dane?
I'm wondering, are they trying to kill us, or are they trying to change the weather?
Well, again, that's a complex question in that there are many, many aspects to what's going on in our skies. This is about weather warfare against opposing interests from other countries, which has historically been the case. It's about trying to hide the severity of damage already done to the climate system while doing yet more damage in the process? Is it beneficial to the power structure for a population that is becoming ever more sick, ever less able to stand up and understand what's happening and defend themselves? Yes, I don't think we can argue that. When we have people like Henry Kissinger and Brzezinski stating on the record that 95% of the population needs to go, and we have these are the global elite, and this is their statements, not mine. So I don't think we can argue that there's many aspects of this that they see as their advantage. And for those, Nikki, who ask, by the way, why would, quote, they do this to themselves? That question comes up all the time. It's a logical, valuable question. But I think we need to look at what those in power have already done to themselves because of their psychiatric issues, their psychology, if you will. Psychopathic behavior has a very big blind spot, and that blind spot is this, and this is named in psychoanalysis manuals: a near total lack of comprehension as to the consequences of their actions, even to themselves. So we look at the detonation of 2,000 nuclear bombs, Fukushima, that could kill us all if nothing else does first. They're building 60 more nuke plants right now at the same time. So we're talking about people who don't consider the consequences of their actions. So there's many aspects to this to consider for the caller, and I would encourage you, though, not to try to put it in one box. It's not a this or that answer. It's a this, that, and a whole bunch of other aspects. There's many layers to what's happening in our sky. None of them benevolent, none of them for the common good. All about power and control.
Yeah, if you look at it, if you look at people who go on mass killings or considered psychopaths, where they just don't have any regard for human life, this is on a very massive type of situation where, they have so much money, even more money than we can ever comprehend, that they can do anything that they want. So they have no regard for our life. And so it's sort of like, let's just play God here, and we'll just kill off as many people as we can, or we'll destroy this. And it's sort of like a fun kind of game for them. And it's very, very sick. And yeah.
There's one difference now, if I could add to that.
Please.
Although in regard to climate modification, this would help answer the caller's question too. I believe that there was a long period in time when those in power felt they could, in their arrogance and their insanity, that they could carry out these programs indefinitely without consequence. And now they know that's not the case. So now we're seeing a fracturing in the power structure. We're seeing desperation that's worse than ever before. They're more dangerous than ever before. Back to the methane issue that I mentioned and the ozone depletion. No ozone layer, no life on Earth. If the methane continues to expel from places around the globe, most especially the Arctic, this planet will turn into Venus in very short order. It's called Venus syndrome. It's a scientific scenario, and it's happening now. So they now know that they have torpedoed their own ship, and the ship is going down. And again, they keep doubling down on climate engineering because they refuse to let go of this this tool of power and control. It's up to us to expose this issue. And by simply exposing it, I would argue that we have started the wheels turning that will stop it. So back to focusing on what's most important. If our heads are on fire, we have to forget about our stub toe and our skin knee, if you will. Does that make sense? I mean, we have to focus on our priorities, and this is the gaping hole in the bottom of the boat. We have to fix this, or the boat's going down. Period.
Sure. Makes sense. Thank you so much for your question. Appreciate it. If anybody else has a question, please go ahead and unmute yourself by hitting *6 on your telephone. *6. Were you going to say something, Dane?
Yeah, this is just, again, it's for the why on this, which is a good question the caller brought up, but it's important that people understand that's a complex answer to that question. It's not a simple answer. Many aspects and layers to it. So the more we understand that, the better, because if we try to box it into one corner, we lose some credibility on that. But ultimately, if we wanted to give one summary answer to that, ultimately it does come down to power and control. That's the most simple, straightforward answer we could have.
And we don't want to go into we don't want to go into a panic. And that's not what we're trying to do. here, but we are telling you with concern that there is a problem here, not to get panicked, but to dig deep within the power that you possess and do something about this. And it will feel good. It will feel good that you're stepping into your power and causing awareness to happen throughout the population, because you're doing something to cause that. So yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be okay. But again, we need to cause not panic, but awareness. Okay, we have a question. Hello, how are you?
It's me again. I just wanted to ask what the best way to help is, I guess. And, is it just handing out flyers or?
That's one exceptional way to help. And again, from your own home computer, everyone can do an immense amount of good by locating groups or organizations and individuals that would care if they knew, and sending out, for example, our Flaming Arrow package, which is just an intro letter and credible data. And also, if you have a number of people in your community that are aware of this issue, for your local meteorologists, your local journalists and so forth that are doing everything they can to hide this issue because they're paid by the same corporate powers that are part of the issue, you need to expose those people. Send emails to them with credible data, and CC as many other credible people that you know, so that the local meteorologist or the local journalist knows that this communication is being seen by a great many people, so that they know that we know they know what's going on in our sky, if that makes sense. And that at some point very soon, when the public wakes up to what's happening, they will hold them legally and morally responsible for helping to hide this crime, that they will become an accessory to the crime. So in all these ways, we can help open up the crack in the dam, if you will, that will let this truth out. And we all need to engage in those methods every day. Who haven't we spoken to? Who haven't we woken up? And in doing so, any one of us could be, again, the final grain of sand that tilts the scale. Mm-hmm. And we all need to engage in this effort.
Great question. Thank you so much. And that was a great answer. I believe we're going to now wrap up the call, but I just want to say thank you so much, Dane, for everything, for all that you're doing, for taking your time to talk with us, to be on Mega Wellness Summit. Again, you were the missing link, and I'm so happy that you were able to be on Mega Wellness Summit for the final days. Tomorrow is the end, and it's been a wild ride of 3 weeks. We've been doing this for 3 weeks. I should say I've been doing this for 3 weeks. And, it's been great. There has been so many aha moments. People are waking up. This is just the beginning. And I appreciate your coming on and speaking. And now we have something to take away with. We understand what's happening. We have someone to connect with, and we can do something about it. And I feel incredibly hopeful.
The gratitude's mine for you for helping us get the word out to help wake others up. And for all those listening, again, Geoengineering Watch is a data repository. There's instructions there for what you can do to help. We have no advertising, no politics. We don't endorse anything. We just simply try to expose this truth. So I hope it works. That's a tool for all your listeners, and we will continue to do our best to get frontline breaking data out on things like, I'm not sure if you saw, Nikki, data from a few days ago. We now know that half of the Great Barrier Reef is expected to die in the next 30 days. Think about that. I mean, why aren't we seeing this on mainstream media? Because they're trying to hide it. It's up to all of us to expose that kind of truth and the greatest assault against nature of all, which is climate engineering that's happening in our skies. So if we all work together, we can yet make a profound difference, even at this late hour.
I will have a link to that. I'll have a link to, of course, your website, geoengineeringwatch.org. And so people can click on that. I encourage everybody tonight to go ahead and share on social media to begin the filtration of awareness. So I will begin, I'll go on and I will share that. The next 30 days is critical. So thank you so much. Again, I can't thank you enough.
Same right back to you and all your listeners, Nikki. We'll all keep pulling together. We're all spokes in the wheel. We're all needed to make it roll.
That's right. I will be in touch with you, Dane. We're going to have more shows, so just stay tuned. There's more to come. Okay?
Sounds good, Nikki.
All right. Everybody take care. Have a great day. Thank you so much.